Good morning, everybody. We are back, and in today's video we're going to be laying up some stringers on the boat. If you guys didn't see the last video, we got the stringers cut out, we got the whole deck cleaned and ground down and everything, and the stringers are sitting up in it. So in this video we're going to be laying up all of the fiberglass on them and cutting out the front sections of them and kind of getting everything tabbed in and ready to go, because after this all we have to do is rigging tube and put the deck on. Here's our list for the day. We've got through this, we just need to finish templating the fronts of the stringers. We're going to glass them in. We do need to do the rigging tube and then template the deck and fabricate that and then glass in the deck. So before we do any of that, I'm going to get this cleaned up. I'm going to get some of our stuff from yesterday cleaned up because there's a lot of foam and wood kind of sitting out where it doesn't need to be. But I'm going to get this cleaned up. It's a much nicer day, much warmer, and we're getting close on the boat. My plan was we might be pulling the power head off my new E-Tech tomorrow, but we'll see how far we get today. And if you guys want any ST Marine merch, first link down below in the description. If you're looking for service, stmarinewi.com. But we're gonna get this cleaned up and we'll get to work. We will be walking you through how I catalyze my resin, how I get everything set up to be efficient for a big layup. Little repairs, if you're doing a little circle, that stuff's easy, but it's kind of something I always wanted to learn, is how to be efficient and get everything set up for a big layup. How do I get all my resin poured out? When do I catalyze it so it's not going off early? So we will be sure to go through all of that today. Alrighty, so hopefully my microphone's on. As we're sitting right now, we have the stringers in. We just put up the front sheet in the boat, and we know what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to scribe it out to get the angle right, then set it down in there, and then put up the laser and cut off the top. And we're gonna have to do that pretty much 4 times to get those front sections, which is gonna take a little bit. But then, actually, before we do any of that, I'm gonna get up in there and I'm gonna grind out all the remaining glass up there and try and get it as flat and smooth as possible. And there's a little bit of like wood and stuff left in there, so we're gonna have to vacuum out the whole boat again, and then we'll be good. So I'm gonna get suited up. I'm gonna put on a long sleeve and gloves and my respirator, and we're gonna get itchy again. Little voiceover for you guys. So what I'm doing here is grinding out any of the remaining fiberglass from before, the little bit of glass that was holding up the stringers, trying to get rid of all of that so the new stringers, 1, can bond, but 2, when I lay up the new fillets and the tabbing for the glass, I want it to grab as much of the hull. If you leave it all bumpy, then you're only going to be grabbing the tops of the bumps and stuff, and it just kind of makes it a pain in the ass. We should have probably pulled those out. Oh, here's a good point. Mic wasn't on. What I'm making is a scribe. So I'm probably saying some pretty smart engineering things here, but yeah, I'm building a scribe, so the pencil is going to be stuck in the top and then it'll be pointy at the bottom. And yeah, here we're cutting out what we did scribe, so that's why the line's not straight, but this is the bottom. Alright everybody, that is zoomed in. I'm on my old lens. There's a change of plans. I'm kind of a bonehead and I didn't know or check how many cups I had, mixing cups for the resin. So what we're gonna do is take out all of our stringers and everything. I ordered some that'll be here tonight for tomorrow. So rather than like half-assing with my 2 cups that I had left, we're going to take all of this out, and what we're gonna do is scrub the hull. So there's a lot of dirt, and he wiped some of it with acetone, but just to get everything really clean, we're gonna get water and some Dawn dish soap, and we're gonna scrub the shit out of this hull and get everything cleaned up nice, no dirt or anything, so the glass grabs really well. And then we're gonna let it dry overnight, and I'm gonna edit yesterday's video, edit this one as far as I can, get yesterday's posted, and then hello, voice crack. And then we'll be back tomorrow in the morning, and we're gonna glass these stringers in so the boat can go outside without issues of water damage. For now, we're gonna clean this up and get her clean. This is a clip from during the week, me just kind of prepping the stringers. What I'm doing here is laying up a glass in between them to help the two pieces bond together. Obviously, as they're alone, they're going to be a little floppy, but putting the sheet of glass in between, one, bonds them together, but two, gives me that vertical strain relief, which is going to be very necessary when I'm hitting big waves on the ocean. It is, in fact, the next weekend. We're back in here. We got the boat in. It's drying out a little bit now. It got a little damp. It rained this morning. We got the heater on. I'm going to start prepping all of my glass. So what I'm going to do, this is matte, 1.5 ounce matte. What I'm going to do is cut out a bunch of strips of this. This is going to be my first layer of tabbing. So stringer, base of the boat. We're going to have matte just to kind of fill in some of the imperfections in the hull. We'll get this laid up and then go over it with a bigger piece of 1708 that'll be pre-wet out. And then I'm probably going to end up putting matte over the whole thing and over the top, but we'll kind of see how it looks and see how the stiffness looks. But either way, those stringers are going to get fully encapsulated. If you follow me right now, both of the stringers are glassed together. You guys saw me do that during the week, but essentially I'm going to start on the port side, get that one glassed in, move over to the starboard, and by the time we're done with that, hopefully the port side's going to be set up enough to where we can set our front stringer in. And the fronts, I cut these pieces and hit them with the router on the outside so they have a nice curve to them. With the front stringer, they're going to sit like this, but they're going to overlap into the second stringer, so that way we have a little more support covering that seam, that splice where it's going to be. So we'll glass the shit out of these. Okay, we're prepped, and I'm going to kind of walk you through our setup, and then before we actually get going on this, but you can see we have the stringers are laid up in the boat, and what we did was I put plastic on the ground because these are our 1708 strips. 1708, you can wet it out just by putting it up on a surface and then laying your resin on it, but it takes so long and it's difficult on a vertical surface. So what I normally do is I use plastic because plastic doesn't absorb the resin, and what I'll do is pour some resin directly over the top of this and spread it out with a popsicle stick, and that way we just get like a layer over the whole thing and it'll saturate, and then by the time I'm ready for it, once I go to lay it up, I'll put it in the boat, it'll already be wet out, and I'll just go over with a paintbrush and kind of roll it out and try and spread the resin around. So we have our 1708 here. These are the rolls of matte that we're going to be using for the bevel. So we're going to lay, there's going to be, our stringer's 8 feet long, these two are 50 inches, so we'll have a little excess, but we'll get these two laid, then this one on the inside, and then that's for the other side stringer. And we have, so these are our resin cups. I like, for a big layup, I like to have everything poured out beforehand. This is roughly what I think I'll need. I'm probably gonna have to fill up a couple more, but at least these are out, and the important thing is only catalyze one at a time. So what I do, we'll be going by drops. So here's a catalyst chart from Spectrum. It's the same for gel coat and resin, but each of these cups are filled to roughly 8 ounces, and I'm gonna be catalyzing at 1%. So that's 24 to 30 drops. If I wanted to go more, 64 to 80, that many drops is hard for me to have the patience to dribble out to. So what I like to do, if it's a small amount, which these are 8 ounce, I'll do it by drop. Otherwise, I'll go by cc's if it's something bigger, like if I had bigger cups and I was doing more. I like to keep the small batches because it allows me to use the whole cup before I ever have to worry about it stiffening up or gumming up. Catalyzing at 1% in the temp that we are in the shop, which is about like 72, it takes about an hour for it to actually harden to where it'll hold something. So it's not really a fear with this, but I'm gonna be catalyzing one at a time. We'll get them laid up and it's easier to work with. So MEKP drops, I'm gonna be doing 36 for 8 ounces of this. So that was a little more. Doesn't have to be exact, you have a little bit of leeway. But the important thing, first, remember which cup you catalyzed. I have done that before. But we're gonna mix it for about a minute and make sure to scrape the sides of the cup. I like to go in like a ovular motion to kind of grab from the bottom and bring it up to the top. With this little amount of catalyst, we really want to make sure that it gets mixed in well, and you'll see the color change just a little bit. So I'm gonna get this mixed up. I'm gonna get up in the boat and we're gonna start laying it up. Exciting stuff. It's really warm today, like it's supposed to be 70 outside. This is probably gonna be one of the last full weekends that I can work on the boat. So I'd like to get a decent amount done because it is picking up. But hopefully if we get the stringers done and bulkheads done, we'll get the fuel tank in, rigging tube, and we'll be ready to put the deck on. And once the deck's on, then everything else, there's not really much more fiberglass. There's a couple holes that need to be filled. The transom needs to be filled and prepped for the 2 motors, but then we get to do the fun stuff like painting the boat. All right, this is mixed. Going to throw my stick with catalyzed resin in the flame bucket, paintbrush, and I'm gonna start with 2 rolls of my mat. This wasn't really meant to be a time lapse, but it kind of turned into one. I had Grant mixing up resin pretty much the entire time, and if he wasn't, he was wetting out the 1708 for me. But here you kind of get a look at what we were doing with the mat, and then this is me rolling out the 1708 on top of it. I did not get a bunch of footage of that, but you can see, if you see to the right of my roller, there's that white spot. That's an air pocket, so I'm rolling them out and trying to get rid of all of them. And then any little strands that are left, I want to get rid of so the entire sheet is grabbing. We had to open up the door and let this baby air out a bit. We didn't really film too much there. That's on me. We got it laid up. I'll walk in there in a second. We have 1 stringer for the most part done. We just need that little top piece that encapsulates it and seals it from the top. We were both mixing and laying up, just kind of trying to figure out our process, so we didn't film a whole lot. For the next one, I'll set up the GoPro, but essentially it took 6 cups of resin, which is 48 ounces. So we used 48 ounces on the 1 stringer. It's got matte all the way along it, then 1708 over top, tying it into the hull and the stringer, so the top piece is going to be fully matte. That's just for waterproofing and making sure there's no exposed wood or anything. So I think what we're going to do is do the starboard side, because we just did port, the starboard back half, get that laid up. Then I'm gonna do the transom pieces, tying it into the transom, and then I believe we're gonna run and grab plywood so I can start building the bulkheads. And then by the time we get back, they should be set up enough to where we can do the front stringers and it'll kind of hold them up so we can get those laid. But let's take a little walk inside and see what we did. Alrighty, wow, lighting is so much better with the door open. So you can't really see it from here, but you really can't even see the 1708 at all because it's wet out so well, but it's there. Over here where we had some lumps in the hull, there's a couple air bubbles, but for the most part, it rolled out beautifully. Now, if you guys have watched the previous videos and you saw us cutting out the stringers, you would know that there was absolutely 0 support in the hull. So this is gonna be so much better. And it will kind of lose some strength that it had before from the foam, but with these stringers and the bulkheads, there's going to be absolutely 0 problems with the hull flexing or cracking in half on us. I don't know how long that took. I would assume about 40 minutes, 45 minutes to do that 1 section. So we should be able to get the stringers entirely glassed in today. So then the next time we can do bulkheads, and then we can pretty much start cutting holes for the rigging tube and fuel tank and all that. I don't know if I showed you guys this. This is the fuel tank that's going in the boat. It's a 94-gallon tank. This came out of a Malibu. If you look in the front here, there's a scratch spot. So in the Malibu setup, this is at the back of the boat, which would be at the back of the engine. The engines are backwards in them. Essentially, this fuel tank bulged, which happens on them, and the coupler for the V-drive was rubbing up on it. So this was warranted. They didn't want it back for warranty, and I kept it for a long time, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. And it just so happened that this fits perfectly in the hull down the center. So to make this work, I'm gonna have to make a cover plate, because it had an in-tank fuel pump, make a cover plate for this, and then just drill a hole at the back and put a fuel pickup. So there is a bit of work to do that I didn't think about before putting the deck on, but still, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a whole lot. And doing the deck will be fun because I'm extremely excited about it. For now, what I think the plan is in the front, the deck's gonna continue all the way up, and then we're gonna fiberglass in the side skirts. So there won't be any seating for now in the front of the boat, but afterwards we can build it on top of that so we have a solid base. And so all of that's waterproof. So like if water got into the compartments or whatever, it would drain out. All right, time to pour out some more resin. This is the other side of the boat, so you guys didn't see it as well earlier, but I'll explain a few things here. This mat is gonna be kind of covering the fillet and just giving me a really good bond in that bottom corner. You can see I'm laying up the resin on the top edge of it so that the resin, gravity will pull it down and it'll kind of fill in that bottom corner so I don't have to push on it too much. But it wets out really well, and we did put big sheets of 1708 on top of this, but of course the GoPro died. Alrighty. Not everybody, just alrighty.
Alrighty.
we're gonna have to finish up for the day. Once again, I am a boob, and someone ran out of 1708. It was me. We got the rear stringers glassed in, port side's going off, it's stiffening up. We're not gonna touch it for the rest of the day so it really fully cures in the spot that it's in. And then it'll work out because when we do the front stringers, they'll have more support to sit on this with. But both are glassed in. All we have left on the rear two stringers is the top cap, just to fully encapsulate the stringer and make sure that, like in the bilge, if it's wet and it gets really hot out and humid, the moisture doesn't get in the wood or anything. Nice shirt. This is where we're gonna stop for the day. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna grab my 175, my E-Tech, and we're gonna load up the bad engine in my truck, and we're gonna take it over to my shop, and then we're gonna start on that video. So if you guys wanna see us start working on the twin engines for this girl, soon I'll be standing here, and then there'll be two motors next to each other. If you guys wanna see that, make sure to stay tuned for the next video. If you want to see the rest of the build, make sure to subscribe. ST Marine merch down below in the description, stmarinewi.com. If you guys want your boat fired up, worked on, so it doesn't take a poop during the year, let me know. But if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.